Hi, this is Marion Dodd, and I'm talking to you about the policies in place to support Indigenous students at Loreto Normanhurst, an independent Catholic day and boarding school for girls in years 5 to 12 in Sydney's north. It's the largest boarding school for girls in New South Wales with 150 boarders and a total student population of 1,100 students. It has a long tradition of raising awareness of social justice issues, but despite its 123-year history, Indigenous students have only been accepted into the school since 2009, with the first graduate in 2012. Since then, the school has significantly expanded its Indigenous education program and currently has 17 Indigenous students at the school, most of whom are boarders. The students interviewed for this report have a strong sense of identity and belonging to the school, are feeling comfortable expressing their opinions about Aboriginal issues and feeling accepted and in part of a happy community. Many of these boarders are on scholarships provided by the Australian Indigenous Education Fund, and they help with boarding and tuition fees, and their families have made this choice to send them away to boarding school to live in the two worlds and to be culturally competent in two worlds, to be able to build their skills to contribute back to their communities and become role models. As I said, Indigenous culture and history is an integral part of the education at Loreto Normanhurst. It's embedded into the curriculum from grades 5 to 12 and in every subject area having at least one perspective. Students study a subject called Integrated Studies up to Year 10, and this peaks in Year 9 when all students travel to far north Queensland for a cultural experience where they are immersed in the culture, walking on sites, speaking with elders and visiting remote communities. Students at Loreto also now have the option to choose Aboriginal Studies as an elective subject in Year 9 and 10. And two classes of Year 9 students chose that subject this year. Also a HSC subject for Year 11 and 12. Loreto has a full-time ATSE support coordinator whose job is to look after the educational wellbeing needs of Indigenous students, ensure cultural infusion of truthful history through the curriculum and assist in the professional development of staff. So most of the students come from family groups so that they can support each other. It's a wonderful form of support and a way to keep families together, and it helps them settle in and be more successful at school. So key Loreto staff do travel out to those remote areas to look for connections in communities and when those students enrol in the school, those connections are maintained as parental support is critical to the program. The ATSE coordinator or Aboriginal teacher works with the students in the day school, but the large community of other Aboriginal girls in the boarding school provides that essential support for the girls. And also at school, other supports include a family and community room for the girls to relax in, that they can decorate freely, and non-Indigenous girls are also welcome to spend time in the room as it's an inclusive community. Students often feel homesick and needing time a space to be able to express themselves away from the other parts of the school in ways of feeling at home with their own culture. So that room's important. The Indigenous students also attend cultural class meetings twice a week after school, an opportunity to spend time together and socialise outside the boarding house. These aren't compulsory, but the girls get an opportunity to spend other time together, and they do cultural activities. And there's also a similar program held off-site where they meet Indigenous girls from other schools in the area. Also, the boarding school provides activities on the weekends, as most of the girls would be staying on site over the weekends, living too far from their communities to be able to travel home frequently. One of their highlights is, of course, the Far North Queensland experience, where they really get to see firsthand culture and to walk on country. And it's certainly helps them to come back, and the non-Indigenous girls, with a greater awareness and appreciation of Indigenous culture. The school's Reconciliation Action Plan is an evolving process. Began 5 years ago and is a working document that's reviewed every 12 months by a group of staff and students. Not available on the website. There is a link to a generic website called Narragansawali, which outlines Loretto's vision, but not enough information for anyone in the wider community to be able to gain a good understanding of what's going on at the school. And obviously other schools cannot then share in the knowledge and the resources that Loretto has the privilege of having. Loretto celebrates all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander commemorative events on the calendar to increase the understanding of non-Indigenous students, but also to give the senior Indigenous students an opportunity for leadership in the planning and implementation of these events. And elders are consulted in the community, and they come in and conduct smoking ceremonies and give talks to the girls on these special occasions. The ATSIC coordinator at the school feels there has been a noticeable increase in understanding of Aboriginal issues among staff members over the years, and they have workshops there for increasing cultural awareness among teachers. And teachers approach her to check that activities are culturally appropriate. Also, the Indigenous the Indigenous girls are included are asked by teachers about what is acceptable and what's appropriate to be saying in class, and this doesn't always make them feel comfortable because they don't want to be singled out. But on the other hand, they do enjoy sharing their knowledge with the non-Indigenous students. The Indigenous girls do express concern at not being able to continue these discussions outside the classroom, though, and due to the sensitive nature of some of these issues. And they would really like to be able to have those discussions because they feel that that's what leads to change the ending of injustices. So the AIEF scholarships are an important part of the support for these students, and many wouldn't be at the school without them. But the number of Indigenous students continues to be quite low, only constituting only 2% of the student population, which is quite surprising for a school offering such a comprehensive program. So Loretto is fortunate to have the resources to provide such a high quality education for Indigenous students, and more Indigenous students could benefit from an education like this, as the numbers do seem low in proportion to the facilities, the success of the program and the total number of students at the school. So it is recommended that more information be placed on the school's website about this program in order to promote it to the wider community and prospective Indigenous students. If this information was more readily available, student numbers could increase as initiatives and activities of the school are more widely known, and more enrolments could ensue. The availability of scholarships also needs to be explained in more detail on the website, and an acknowledgement of country definitely needs to be there. And a more informative website would also help other schools in implementing Indigenous education at their schools, which ultimately benefits more students in the wider community. And this sharing of resources could be facilitated by the generic website Narragansawali, showing more specific details of each school's actions. So the students at Loretto have a high level of support from their fellow Indigenous students and their Aboriginal teacher or coordinator. And the boarding school is a home away from home, but an Aboriginal counsellor would be highly recommended to help with the adjustments to the two different worlds and some of the emotional trauma that some of the girls are still experiencing. And that would provide someone else to talk to apart from their Indigenous friends. And Indigenous students at Loretto Normanhurst feel that strong sense of belonging at school that recognises and celebrates their culture. And they feel but it would be really, really great if the non-Indigenous students were reassured that it's okay to discuss issues outside the classroom with them. The Indigenous students want these conversations to take place, as it shows them that the non-Indigenous students understand and care, and that's what ultimately leads to change. And the recommendation is that the pastoral care leaders could engage non-Indigenous students in how to have culturally appropriate, sensitive conversations about these issues and be more proactive in initiating these conversations. Thank you very much.